When we untax labor, we encourage value-added production. People are cheaper to employ. We reduce the cost of labor because businesses don't have to pay all these payroll deductions because the taxes don't come off of labor anymore. They're coming off of sites, sinks, and sources. Pay for what you burn. If you're a consumer, you pay for what you burn, not for what you earn. If you have a job, you should be able to keep all that money. But if you want to spend that money on an SUV or a Hummer, you should get nailed to the wall. Pay for what you take, not for what you make. Take for what you take from the global commons, not for what you earn. If your business is making money, you should be able to keep that money. Uptax resources obviously encourages resource efficiency, it reduces pollution, and encourages conservation. I think that's the tar sands in Canada, that photo there. We have the worst, absolute worst method of getting oil that you could imagine. Untaxed businesses. You encourage innovation. Our present tax structure discourages innovation. You reduce the black market. Some 20% of our economy is underground, and it goes untaxed. That's unfair to the rest of us who are paying taxes. Let's be fair to everybody. It avoids capital flight. If you untax businesses, our Prime Minister, Paul Martin, our old Prime Minister, who got unceremoniously deposed a little while ago, his family for many years owned a shipping company called Canada Steamship Lines, and they registered it in the Bahamas to avoid taxation. And so that didn't do him very much, didn't do him very well at the polls. It fosters business pride. Now business people are embarrassed if they are involved in some kind of ecologically destructive activity, and they have no choice. But if a business says, wow, I can make money and save the earth at the same time, then people are proud of their business, and that's what we want. Site rental. Reduce speculation. If, like my house in Toronto, it's collecting all this extra rental value while I sleep. If the government took that from me, because I didn't earn it in the first place, and distributed it to these 5,000 homeless people in Toronto, we would reduce homelessness and poverty in Toronto. So when you reduce speculation by, okay, when the site rental is allowed to stay with the person who receives this unearned increment, it becomes very attractive for people to buy land for speculative purposes. So people buy up land, wait till it goes up, and collect capital gains, which they didn't earn, and which belong to other people who don't earn land. So there's a huge injustice happening because of speculation. Same with carbon permits. You would buy up carbon permits, wait till the price goes up and sell them and incur and predate the system. Speculators are predators of the system, and which is why we have poverty in our countries. One of the components of site rentals, we shouldn't be taxing the building, just the land under the building. Right now, what we call it property taxes, it's a combination of the two. And you shouldn't be taxing the building because buildings fall down, buildings don't accumulate wealth, they just rot, the ants eat them, but it's the land underneath the building that accrues the wealth, and so you should be collecting, capturing the economic rent that land produces. We in Toronto, we have a subway system. It's not a very good one. Politicians, once in a while, they want to extend it, but they always say, oh, we have no money to extend the subway system. Well, if they thought this through and did a little reading, a little thinking, they would realize that if there's infrastructure worth building, if it merits construction, then as soon as it is built, the land around it, there's an upkick in the rental value, and if the city, if your municipality collected that unearned increment that nobody earned, it belongs to the community because the community created it, that amount of wealth is always more than the initial infrastructure costs. So that is how you finance new infrastructure. As we go into climate change, we are going to have to redesign every urban area on the planet, except for Amsterdam, downtown, and Venice, because they are already walkable communities. We need to move Melbourne to walkable communities linked by transit, and that's going to cost a phenomenal amount of money to redesign for urban areas, and the way we finance it is by collecting the upkick around the infrastructure, which will cover, and more than cover, the cost of the infrastructure. And then we will end up with walkability is what we need. Everyone goes to visit Amsterdam and Venice and other walkable cities because it's so wonderful when you can walk around a city without being I have a terrible time in Australia because I still think cars are coming that way, but they're coming that way. I'm a nervous wreck. This is not really related to municipalities, obviously, but collecting rent from sites, sinks, and sources has multiple benefits to the farming sector. Rewards ecological services, optimizes land use, labor-intensive value added because people are cost less. Many farmers can't afford to do market gardening because they can't afford the labor. In Canada, Canadians won't work for what farmers can pay, so we fly Mexicans up to do the work, the hard work. It's disgusting. But if you paid a Canadian $50,000 to work on a farm, they'd happily do it, but not for $10,000 or $20,000. Forestry, same darn thing, rewards ecological services. All we need to do is has anyone read that book, Capitalism 3.0 by Peter Barnes? Fabulous book.
Yes.
It's a fabulous book. It talks about forestry and farming, that old growth forests should be part of a land trust, and all forests should be part of a land trust controlled by the local people. And if some company wants to use that wood, they pay a fee to those local people. And so the incentive, counterintuitively, the incentive of the local people is to let less and less fiber or timber being taken out because they want to conserve it for future generations. And if you have a finite resource, the less you let out, the higher the price goes. So if you decide to liquidate it, the price goes down. So there's no incentive for land trusts to sell the resource cheaply. Anyway, this is part of the collecting rental, the rental value of forest or of agricultural land or indeed urban land.